Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an OP Hexblade Warlock multiclass with the Eldritch Knight Fighter in Baldur's Gate 3. We get 3 attacks per action outside of Honor Mode, a bonus action attack, and this means with haste and action surge that we can do 10 attacks per turn. Pretty crazy. So this is actually an upgraded version of just the regular old Eldritch Knight, but we'll first start off with the Fighter because I think that this has a better start. This gives us our second wind. Ability scores is important because you do need intelligence for the Eldritch Knight. However, I think it's best to actually take most of our spells from the Warlock are going to be the ones we'll be casting, and for the most part we need the charisma for our ability to do the Hexblade weapon, which uses charisma for our attack rolls. So we'll take something like a 16 charisma and 16 dexterity. I think that working with dexterity works a little bit better because we do have some stealth aspects to this as well. At 14 constitution and 10 intelligence and wisdom. Starting with the fighter will also give us a fighting style, and it gives us constitution saving throw proficiency, so it will help hold our concentrations a bit better. Now I think defense is a good choice, or you can go with the dueling if you want to add additional 2 damage to our attacks. I think that defense just works the absolute best here, so that's what we'll roll with for an increased armor class. At level 2, we get the ever powerful action surge here. You know the deal. It's an extra action. It can be extremely powerful. At level 3, we get to take our subclass with the Eldritch Knight. I would recommend grabbing Booming Blade here, and for our second cantrip, Mage Hand is extremely useful, or Minor Illusion. With Mage Hand, you can use that to throw health potions to yourself. You can drop a health potion, it's a free action, and then the Mage Hand can throw it at you if you need some extra healing. Now for the spells, I would recommend grabbing anything that's going to be something that doesn't require a stat. So this doesn't require intelligence, just increase our armor class by 5, we'll take that. Magic Missile is also in the same boat, because this will actually give us an increased amount of damage, and it always hits, so we don't need intelligence. And for the next prepared spell, the expanded spell is Find Familiar can be nice early game for the Raven to apply blind on targets, but Longstrider is another nice one to increase your movement speed by 3. Grease is also good because this doesn't require us to do any type of, this doesn't require us to have a concentration or have a high intelligence, so that's totally fine. So Longstrider, Grease, or Find Familiar, depending on your preferences. I think a Longstrider just works best because the increased movement speed is extremely useful on a fighter. Level 4, we get to choose another spell here. I wouldn't really recommend, nothing here super important. Mage Armor if you want to use clothing early game and increase your armor class. Thunderwave is alright, but using your intelligence, so that's kind of unfortunate. So I guess we'll just go with Mage Armor there. And then for the feat, I would recommend going with, there's a couple options. Before you take the Warlock, you can take Alert for the +5 to Initiative, or you can go with Ability Score Improvement afterwards to increase your Charisma, which will increase your attack rolls. And the early game, it's obviously not going to be a big importance, but level 5 extra attack, you know the deal. That's a nice boost to our power. At this point, I think it's actually best to multi-class in, but you can continue up to level 7 if you prefer. We can just get the extra attack a little bit quicker here. We'll go with the Hexblade Warlock here. With the cantrips, we already have Booming Blade, so we're going to take Eldritch Blast, which will use Charisma. You can take Minor Illusion too if you want that, or Friends if you're the face of the party, but I think Bone Chill is nice because there are some targets that if you hit them with Bone Chill, they don't receive healing, which is really nice. The Hexblade will give us the Bind Hex weapon. We get the Hexblade's Curse as well, which is really effective. And we did take some spells. We already have Shield, so we don't need a ticket here. We can go with the Hellish Rebuke, which is nice because we can use our Eldritch Knight spell slots to cast it. Same thing with the Armor of Agathis or the Hex spell. Typically, this is just going to give you additional damage on the target. It doesn't actually upcast properly, so these two work really well since we do have kind of split spell casting. And at level 2, we get our spell, another spell here. So Armor of Agathis can be pretty nice as well, or if you really want Wrathful Smite, the Eldritch Invocations here. This is a big one because we get Devil's Sight, which allows us to see in darkness, which is really, really effective. And we'll also take a Repelling Blast because sometimes Eldritch Blast can push someone off of a ledge, which is really nice. At level 3, we get to choose a Pact Boon. If you're outside of Honor Mode, this is you take the Pact of the Blade. This gives you an extra attack at level 5, which stacks with the Fighter's extra attack. If you're in Honor Mode, Pact of the Chain or Pact of the Tome are better, although I wouldn't really recommend running this in Honor Mode. And we get some more really good spells here. So Hold Person, Shadow Blade, and Darkness are our top 3, with Misty Step being another really good choice. The thing is, if you want to maximize damage, Shadow Blade and Darkness are going to be your best 2. But I'm just going to take Hold Person here because it's also extremely effective, as you can get free critical hits off of enemies. Now for our next leveled next spell, I'd recommend Minor Illusion. Pull the Dead's okay too. And at this level, Darkness, because we can see in magical darkness, and this is extremely effective. Also, what we can do is if you want to remove one of these other spells, like if you don't find you're using Armor of Agathis that much, We can also swap it out and take another spell, but that's for you to decide. At this level, I think it's best to boost up our charisma all the way to 20 here, just to give ourselves better attack rolls and spell casting. And here at level 10 is when we get the extra attack. Normally the Eldritch Knight would get it at level 11, so this is a bit quicker. Really nice to have that. And we get access to some really good spells. Counterspell is good, but we can only use 2 of our Warlock spell slots on it. Same thing with Hunger of Hadar. It's good, but not as good as taking. I know some people don't like Shadowblade, but Shadowblade really takes this build to another level. It makes it extremely powerful. Misty Step being another good spell if you wanted it, and Hunger of Hadar if you don't want Shadowblade, but we're going to go with Shadowblade because it's, just face it, Shadowblade's really strong. We get to take another Eldritch Invocation at this level, and at this point I would just recommend Agonizing Blast, adding Charisma modifier to our Eldritch Blast, which is really nice. And then here we actually are going to go back to go with the Fighter here. You can, again, you could replace the spell there and take off the Armor of Agathis if you wanted to, and then take Misty Step instead. But we're going to go with the Eldritch Knight because this is actually really strong. We get the extra attack bonus action at level 7. At this point, we already have our Charisma max, so there's a few options. You could go with the Warcaster to maintain your concentration if you'd like on Darkness. Spell Sniper is sometimes okay, but not in this build. Savage Attacker will reroll your damage die, melee attacks, which is great. I just think Alert is the best. Giving a +5 to Initiative is super useful. An ability score improvement on our Dexterity is another good choice if you don't want that extra Initiative. However, the Initiative is massive. Level 7, War Magic. So after we do a cantrip, which Booming Blade counts as a cantrip, we can make a weapon attack using a bonus action. So Booming Blade, attack, bonus action attack. It's strong. And we get to take some more spells here. You could, I guess, take Darkness here because this doesn't require you to have a set amount of intelligence. So that is something that we could have taken with the I guess, the Fighter as well if you want to swap out the Darkness for something else. Gust of Wind, it's okay. Arcane Lock. Nothing really here stands out because what we really want is the War Magic extra attack. So I'll show you what this looks like for gear, and then we'll show off the combat. As for gear, we could roll with a Warped Headband of Intellect. This will give you your intelligence score to 17, which is better than nothing. But I do think that it's best to either late game Helm of Baldur, and obviously +1 armor class can take our armor class up to 28. The Helmet of Arcane Acuity. So whenever we deal a weapon attack, we get Arcane Acuity, which increases our spell save DC, so we can land our spells. So that's a really good choice. Hood of the Weavelers give you a flat out +2 to your spell save DC. And yeah, Headband of Intellect is also really nice because that actually lets us use our Warlocks, our Eldritch Knight spells without worry. Early game, the Haste Helmet also works well, but Helmet of Arcane Acuity is just extremely useful. Birthright can also be good because this will give you a +2 to your Charisma, which further takes it up, and you can get your Charisma to 24 using that for a +7 to our Charisma. Warlock, or the Cloak Protection, will give us a +1 armor class, putting our armor class up to 27. I'm using the Armor of Agility. This will add our full Dexterity modifier, so if we had our Dex even higher, this would put our armor class up to a crazy amount. Use the best available medium armor. The Yuan-Ti in Act 2 works well. Early game, Potent Robe, if you're going to roll the Warlock, can work very well. So you got a lot of great options there, but early game, yeah. Best available medium armor in the Yuan-Ti once you get to Act 2. And then finally getting the Armor of Agility, because this will give us +2 to saving throws. And the big thing being no disadvantage on stealth checks, so we can be a bit stealthy. Now, I also have the Brain Drain gloves here, so whenever we deal psychic damage with a Shadow Blade, you inflict mental fatigue. So that's a -2 to their Wisdom, Charisma, and Intelligence saving throws, so that we can land our spells even better. Get a +10 for the Helmet of Arcane Acuity, and then with the Brain Drain gloves, we get -10. They basically will never succeed on our spells. You can also go with the gloves of the Battle Mage's power here, which will, whenever you hit a target with a spell or cantrip, we gain Arcane Acuity, so Booming Blade will trigger that. Helldust gloves would be the best later game option. I love the Brain Drain gloves, but Helldust gloves would be the best late game because they'll give you bonus to your spell save CDC and 1d6 of fire damage. And the Evasive Shoes for the plus armor class is nice too. Hellrider Longbow for the +5 or +3 to initiative. We're going first every single turn or every single combat encounter. Ring of Protection. Now, the Ring of Elemental Infusion, it says it doesn't work with the Booming Blade, but it actually does work with Booming Blade. So this will give you additional damage whenever you do a cantrip. It's made for this build. And the Amulet of Greater Health, but you can go with the Elemental Augmentation Necklace if you want. I do have the Knife of Thunder Mountain King here. This is great until you get Shadow Blade, because it has the Shadow Blade ability, as you can see there, which gives you an advantage on attack rolls whenever you're in a lightly or heavily obscured area, which is darkness or shadows. And this will give you an increased critical hit chance. However, there is another way about going about this, because we are going to want to use our Shadow Blade as well. So you can use the Arcane Battery from any type of staff, so the Staff of Spell Power or Mark of Heshker. And then we can free cast a level 3 Shadow Blade, which is upcast to do additional damage. You don't have to do Shadow Blade. I'm just going to put a little asterisk here. This is for if you want to maximize damage, because you can't beat a 3d8 of Psychic with the Resonant Stone doubling that. So that's like a 68 of damage. And it's incredible. Huge amount of damage. If you want to maximize and make this OP, do that. If not, the Knife of the Undermountain King, or even the Infernal Rapier, if you're in Act 2, is extremely useful for the better space spell save DC. Really, whatever weapon, even Sharp Spear of the Evening, if you're going on an evil playthrough, is really good on this, because this will give you, we already have blind, you can put this on someone else to give them the blindness immunity. Fowler Alluve's another good sword, or the Blade of the Oppressed Souls. So a lot of great options there for it. We could also, if we want to, add in the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, because this will let us use a bonus action hold person, which can also be extremely effective to put against the enemy. And then also we got the Ring of Arcane Synergy, which will add our charisma modifier to our attacks. After we do if we do a Booming Blade, it adds a +5 from our charisma modifier and then a 1d4. So that actually adds a lot of damage after a single Booming Blade. So I'll show you what this looks like when we get into combat. Do not forget to bind your Hex weapon here, because that's going to give us that extra attack. And another little thing, you do have the Eldritch Knight one, don't bother with that. We can set up before we get into combat. If you know you're getting into a fight, we can always just go ahead and drop darkness down, because this darkness is really good for the people get blinded by the darkness and then they don't know what to do when it comes to fighting. So you can actually preset up with this, and then sometimes you can kill a few targets if you know you're getting into a fight without even having to use any of your without using your spells, because the darkness will actually scare. Basically what you can see here, they're blinded. Sometimes it doesn't actually trigger a fight. You can see there, we actually just run into the darkness here now. So yeah, that's another thing you can do. And you can see here, sometimes when enemies are in darkness, they act weird too. So that guard did not even care to get into a fight with us. But first things first, we want to stack up our Arcane Synergy and give ourselves the Elemental Augmentation. So Booming Blade, you have to use Booming Blade first in order to trigger the War Magic. So going with this here is going to take them out. Critical hit, 48, 12, 9. Yeah, a lot of damage. Now we got our War Magic extra attack triggered, you can see. So we can just go around with another attack here on this target. Boom. Shadow Blade is really powerful, especially with the Resonant Stone. And we also have the advantage on our attack rolls, you can see there. So we use up our action and bonus action to get that extra attack out, which is really good. So we just go around stabbing those. And yeah, it's likely going to one-shot most targets. That's the thing. Unless they have a lot of health or resist psychic damage, like the Steel Watch. You can see there, most humanoid enemies get absolutely wrecked by this. So this is really good. We can also go and jump these that aren't in the fight just yet. So we'll just go with a Booming Blade on this target to get them into the things. And they just drop dead and their friends don't even matter. Don't even care. That's the funny thing about darkness, is it works really weird like that. And we just added them into the fight now. It's kind of funny. That actually let them survive because they didn't get the psychic vulnerability there. But that's okay, because we got Action Surge. As I mentioned, you get 10 attacks here, which is pretty crazy. And if you have a means of getting an extra bonus action by like the helm that gives you an extra bonus action when you're lower on health, you can actually get a lot of attacks off, even more than what we saw here. So boom, just continue to go around with the melee attacks. You literally are unstoppable when you're an Eldritch Knight Hexblade. And we'll just use an arrow attack there. Arrow many targets also being nice, but the Hexblade, or the being able to use the Helldust Gloves adds additional fire damage to your attacks. So yeah, you seen there, we cleared the board really quickly. Another thing is, whenever we hide in darkness, for some reason the enemy won't do melee attacks, they'll just do throwing attacks. But that's fine, because we can strike back with a Hellish Rebuke there. Not always the highest amount of damage, but it's something to do a little bit of damage at least. Hellish Rebuke is a nice way to, since we don't have the Paladin to burn spell slots, we can use that instead. Now we do have a problem, I can't run over there, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go with Eldritch Blast on this target here, the highest threat. Eldritch Blast hits pretty hard. That was enough to take out that target, which is sweet. Then we can use our Hexblade's Curse on another target, so we can apply that to them, and then we can just do Eldritch Blast on them, as Eldritch Blast is still pretty strong. You can see that was more than enough to take out that target, so we don't have to go into darkness. Darkness will make it so they do throwing attacks, but since we're outside of darkness, now they're going to run up on us, which is fine because our armor class is really high. They need to roll a 28. We have shield, so again, we are not getting hit there, and we'll now finish them off with a single Booming Blade. So yeah, that advantage, crazy, and more than enough to take them out. Also give us the Thunder Infusion and Arcane Synergy. So yeah, you saw it there. The Hexblade Warlock multiclass with the Eldritch Knight Fighter is extremely powerful in Baldur's Gate 3, combining two great subclasses and Booming Blade, Shadow Blade, you name it, it's all pretty powerful. I know some people don't like the Darkness and Shadow Blade builds, but for an overpowered build, this is really strong. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.